better or for worse, there are multiple factors that enable a company to consistently innovate over time. However, if I'm answering for just one, it's the team.
Mm,
Over and over and over and over again, it's the team, and that was true in that case. And one of the things I want to emphasize here is I was with the Weather Channel at that time when we launched the app, but since then there have been generations of people at the Weather Channel since I left who've done an amazing job rolling out successive generations, which I want to get to as a second point related to building the foundation. But with the team, it's having people who have the requisite skills, but also complementary skills. We had spent a lot of time building the culture of the team and an environment where we knew that it was important to support each other. And we knew it was important not only to build something that worked for mobile devices, but also something that complemented the rest of the brand. This is something that not everybody who's building a business needs to worry about. But if you are an entrepreneur and you're working within a larger organization with a common brand like the Weather Channel, one of the most trusted brands in the world, then it's very important that whatever we do is accretive to the brand. And
mm.
when we show up in the marketplace, it's a really positive experience and it complements the other platforms and people that others see. But at the end of the day, number one is build a team that is highly functional, that has common values and different capabilities so that you can make things happen. And of course, in this sort of fast moving environment, you need it to be flexible. The second thing that I would bring up, and it goes back to how we started this conversation, growth is not linear. And I
Mm.
think humans sometimes like to assume, well, you just go from point A to point B to point C. It's like, it's like watching a ball roll down a street, and it just goes at a certain speed, and maybe it speeds up or down a little bit. But the thing that happens with these kinds of businesses is you can work for years. In the case of the Weather Channel, we've worked for 7+ years at building, block after block, or capability after capability, or product after product, none of which was as big of a breakthrough as these apps. These apps changed the nature of the business with a multiple. And so, for people who really aspire to accomplish great things, it's important to remember that you can feel like you're rolling up your sleeves, you're working so hard, you don't see as much progress as you want. But if you're on the right track, if you have a sound strategy, a vision, the right people, you do that for a while, you increase your probability a lot that you can have a breakthrough moment, or as Jim Collins refers to it, the flywheel really starts going.
Right. So what are some things that you think leaders can do to, let's say you're kind of chugging along and you're just not really having the breakthrough. Like in your case, I mean, you were at the Weather Channel for 5.5 years, let's say, maybe 6, and you're just making these minor improvements, right? Where you're gradually building the online uh, sector of the business, starting to get some interaction with people on mobile, but nothing's really moving the needle huge. I mean, it's that you get to a point where you got a couple million people using the Weather Channel on mobile. But then, I mean, once you got these apps, I mean, you get into tens of millions in months, right? So this is a huge, huge moving the needle moment. So what do you suggest to kind of as you're to increase the chances, I guess, in addition to just being patient? What can leaders be doing to be drawing out these huge opportunities that they can take advantage of?
Sure. So, one of the starting places, if you're an entrepreneur, and this comes up in my book several times as I interviewed folks, it's very important to understand the strategy of the company.
Hmm.
Because if you want to be successful in securing investment and resources, then it's important to be building in line with where your company is going and where the industry is going. And in that case, we knew we were. We were confident, for example, that devices were going to gain in capabilities. We were confident that the wireless networks were going to gain in capabilities. We were confident that people would likely go across 3 screens from TV to desktop web to mobile. And it was just that the capabilities weren't there yet. So we had a thoughtful strategy that gave us confidence that it really was a matter of time. The
Mm.
second one is prioritization. The steps that you mentioned, in hindsight, they were smaller steps. However, when we went from, basically zero revenue and a very small subscriber base to meaningful six-figure revenue and hundreds of thousands, or maybe even, seven figures of users, that felt like a major um, increase. And so building these blocks over time is really helpful, but we didn't do that by doing everything all at once. We
Mm.
made a strategic choice, and this was in 01, 02, 03. We said, we're going to focus on apps. And we're going to do that to the exclusion of most other things that require a lot of development. For example, mobile web, which we basically just put on the back burner. And once we got to a place where the apps were working, we had more of an opportunity in video than we thought. And at one point, we were making more made for mobile video uh, uh, at the Weather Channel than any other company I knew how to find, because we were producing forecast for many locations around the US and appending that to data. And then we did it with text messaging, and then we came around to mobile web. So by that time, we had a very strong foundation, but we had been prioritizing to the best of our ability. And the last thing that I would mention is probably self-evident, but you got to adapt. We didn't have a crystal ball. We didn't get it all right. We couldn't predict the timing of some platforms. We couldn't predict the size of some platforms, but we knew the general direction. We took a position, and we were action oriented. So we adapted, we were action oriented, and we navigated into a place where the Weather Channel has been one of the biggest innovators on the mobile, in the mobile ecosystem for over 20 years.